All right. Well, hello everyone. We're going to try round two. Apparently, earlier today I streamed a black screen for a little while, so we're going to give this another go around. Hopefully, I got the technical issues figured out. It looks like I did. So, what I'm working on today is kind of something that I learned a while back to create content for my Instagram and a few other media channels, but specifically Instagram, just because it's so visual. And what it is finding art that I like on different websites. In this particular case, I went to minted.com. They have a really good selection, and it's fairly unique artwork. Everything is created by artists that upload their work, and then Minted sells it for them. So it's a really great website. They even did a contest around the holidays, I think it was, or earlier this year, where they were requesting mood boards from designers using art from their artists. And so that's kind of what got me started on this. But you could really do anything that catches your eye and inspires you. And essentially, what I'm doing here is creating an image of a mood board or a concept board that is inspired by this piece of artwork. So it could be a bathroom, a living room, whatever. Earlier today, the one that I worked on was a living room space. So it had a really cool mustard velvet sofa and everything. Anyway, moving on to this. Right here. Okay, so this is a piece of artwork that I'm working on right now, and it is, what is it here? It's called Orange House, and the artist's name is Mallory Grace. But when I do these, I always keep track of that because I'm not stealing anyone's artwork. I'm not trying to pass it off as my own. I definitely don't want to let anyone think that. And I make sure that when I do eventually post these on my Instagram or Facebook, I always tag the artist, tag Minted, and I always do that right away. So I never, do, hey, look at this awesome bedroom that I created. Oh, and by the way, the artwork is by so and so. I always try to get it above the fold. So like the first line of my Instagram caption is going to be, check out this concept board inspired by art from this artist found on Minted. So that's the above the fold, and then I'll go into my story below about what the space is that I've created. So anyway, that's my story. That, that's what I'm doing here. So this is essentially just content creation. But if I were working with a client that say, hey, we want to work on a room, we want to redesign our space, we have this piece of artwork, or whatever the key piece is, and then I build a concept board based on that item. And so essentially, it's a way of communicating visually with my clients of saying, um, here's the key piece, and then here's some pieces that will work really, really well with that, and to create this whole space. So I've already brought in this piece of artwork into my Photoshop document, and I start out with a 5x5. I have it set up as 5 inches by 5 inches, but essentially I have a square because that's the format that Instagram prefers. Now this particular piece, you can't, well, there's nothing else on the screen here, you can't really tell, but there is actually a white edge to it. So I'm going to go in here real quick with my rectangular marquee tool. Select, and then I use the layer mask tool to just get rid of all of that background, hide it essentially. So again, you can't see it because there's nothing else on the screen right now, but if there were something else here, by doing that, it means that there's no obnoxious white background when I go to layer things. The next thing I'm going to do is shrink this down because although this is the focal point of my image, I need room to work with some of the other stuff that I've got. Okay, deselect that. I've already gone and found all the other images that I want to use in this concept board. And what I do is I go to Google image search and I search for whatever it is that I'm looking for. The images that you find, I always try to find ones just off of manufacturers' websites whenever possible, because then I'm not really worrying about copyright, because those are images of a product available for sale. I try to keep track of where they're from. If I can tag certain items or certain brands, I will when I go to post this. But I'm not stealing someone else's work. I'm simply getting single objects. So I'm not taking a picture of a whole room and saying, oh, look, this picture inspired this room that I didn't create. I am taking all these bits and pieces like a design job where I'm picking all of the fixtures and finishes and all of that into this finished space. So I just want to be very clear on that that's how I do this. So I found this piece of artwork. Then I want to bring in, found this really pretty floor tile, and it's actually a wood look floor tile. And although this is a bathroom space, I thought this would look great. I'm just going to bring that in, tuck that down in the corner. Next, I found a white subway tile, and I wanted to find an image. Um, it had pretty minimal or not overpowering grout lines. That one did a pretty good job of that. And then as an accent tile, found this really gorgeous, uh, almost looks like oxidized copper to me, or beautiful, beautiful turquoise. And so again, I'm just going to kind of shrink some of these down so they look somewhat in scale with each other. I'm not trying to create a finished room that's in perspective. I'm trying to create a concept board that gives someone an idea of what the space could look like. So like here, maybe I'll just do this little stack off to the side of my different, tile materials.
So we're in our bathroom. Oh my.
All right.
All
right. All right. So the next, I've got my main materials in there. Then I found this absolutely amazing copper tub, and wow, I am in love with this thing. And it's even got these really cool, I don't know if those are dragons or owls or elephants or what, but either way, those are amazing. It's got the hammered copper um, interior. It's got a really beautiful kind of vintage style faucet. I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now what I'm going to do is um, use my magnetic lasso tool so I can get all these nice curves. And essentially I'm just going to trace out exactly what I want. Now, you'll notice as it goes around here where colors aren't exactly super high contrast with the background, it doesn't always catch right away, but I'm going to go back and be able to do that. So I'm just tracing around the bottom here. Floor drain. And you'll notice it's not 100% perfect, but I can go back in and catch those details here. So right now I'm just trying to get the outline traced.
Sweetie, outside?
All right. Trace, 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 trace. Oh, I missed a whole big chunk there. The good news is this does not have to be perfect because I will make it perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to go around and essentially double check all of this. So you'll notice if you're familiar with Photoshop, there's the plus sign, which means I'm adding to my selection. And then if I hit the Alt key, the minus sign shows up, and then I'm deleting from my selection. So right now I want to add. Sure not to have that Alt key depressed. Here. I want to add a little more shadow here. Now it's going to try and catch the edges as best as possible, but if it's kind of veering off course and you see it's doing that, you can use the mouse and kind of click a little point down to catch what you need to catch. I'm going to see a little hiccup over here too. Add to this little spot. And then over here, oops, see, and there I was holding down the Alt key and I shouldn't have been. All right, so here we go. I'm adding that. Now I do want to hold the Alt key because I want to get rid of this little hiccup right here. So that smoothed that out a little bit. Okay, I'll come back to that. So now I'm going to kind of scroll down here. Just trying to create as smooth a line as possible. Oh, and then when you see that little zero sign or that little zero indicator, that means that my two ends are close enough to join so they'll connect. Okay, so I want to get rid of a little bit of that right there. And this is definitely kind of a minutiae task, but it makes a huge difference when you're going to have things that overlap, especially if I were to decide that as I'm putting this board together that I want this to overlap those flooring materials that I've picked. This way there won't be any annoying white edges interfering with these things overlapping. And the nice thing about that is, I mean, number one, you're trying to create the most visually pleasing image that you can. You want your clients to look at this and say, wow, that's just an absolutely beautiful space. I love it. And you don't want them to be distracted by little bits of white because it takes a few extra seconds longer to make it not white. But then that little bit could be the difference between them seeing the image and just being absolutely enthralled by it versus looking at the image and going, ugh, that's the kind of a mediocre Photoshop job. Why'd she bother? And I'll admit, I am somewhat of a mediocre Photoshop person. I'm working on it, I'm learning. But when I know I can do a good job at something, I definitely do. I keep working and learning to figure out more. Okay, so now here I want to subtract that little. Okay. Add this. Magnetic tool is generally going to go for kind of the most crisp edge you can find. So this was a much higher contrast edge, and that's why I wanted to use that as the grounding point. Okay, so now I'm trying to add in some more because I want to make sure I get this. That's going to be a tricky one, it looks like. Again, sometimes you just have to go in there and, yeah, see, it doesn't even. I'm going to manually go up little clicks all the whole way up here, trying to get as much of that in as I can. There we go. Now up here, I need to subtract this and add back in some of that. Add in some. Probably a little bit more. Okay. And over here, I want to add in this whole knob. And it's wanting. When you get this zoomed in, it's hard sometimes for it to differentiate with the different pixels. And I'm going to have to very carefully manually click all the points I want. This little triangle there to add more of this in. Quite get enough of that. Okay, come here. We're going to subtract this little. I'm going to add this knob. And down here. Okay, then I've got this big section. This one here that I would. Get this weird little. And last but not least, make sure that one is. Back that. And I'm adding to this because I'm adding to. All right. So, okay. A little bit tedious, but there we go. So now I'm going to go use my layer mask tool, and all of that background goes bye-bye. And I hit Control T. That's my quick edit to the transform button. And this tub is one of the biggest pieces in this space, or one of the greatest focal points. I want this kind of front and center right here in the middle. That art, I actually might center that artwork directly above this. Oh, it's kind of like that. Now, if I do that, bring my artwork forward, up forward, and maybe I'll pop that around, get that wood finish up there. We've got beautiful white tile here and that tile like that. So kind of having those sweep across the middle of here. Kind of like that line direction as you go. Okay. So now that I've got that, the next kind of big piece in here is having a vanity cabinet because I mean I could just show only the tub and it would read as a bathroom, but then I found this. So, all right. And I think I'm gonna leave. I think I'm pretty much just gonna keep this whole thing except for my background. So I'm gonna end up tracing out the mirrors. I'm debating on those because I want the only reason to keep the mirrors would be to have that shadow line. And I don't know that I can without making it wonky. So I think what I'm just gonna do is just this base unit with the faucets and then probably the flowers in the middle, and I'm not gonna worry about the mirrors. So again, going back over here to my magnetic lasso tool, zoomed in so I can get some control over here. Start at a corner and start tracing my way around. And again, I'll definitely have to go back in a few spots. Now this part's gonna be tricksy. Oh, not as bad as I thought actually. Once you get the initial line in place, you can alternate between the magnetic lasso tool and the polygonal lasso tool and kind of crisp up some of those lines. Zoom. I'm going to be editing this. Okay. Love the poppies, but they're going to be hard to trace around, so I think I'm just going to do this. Let's add some green if I find. All right, now that is an absolutely horrible line. But now we go back. Polygonal. Now, polygonal versus magnetic is simply a matter of how crisp and straight some of those lines are. I'm going to zoom in here. But okay. I am going to just drag a really quick line all the way across the bottom here, just to make sure that that line is as crisp as can be. There you go. So see, that made that just a lot nicer all of a sudden. Then I'm going to go up here and do the same. Okay, so we got that little corner in properly. And that one actually looks pretty good already. So that helped. And I'm going to go back to my magnetic tool. And I need to trace these faucets better. So I need to get rid of this little doodad down here. And then I need to add in all of this. Okay. That in. Now I need to get rid of this little triangle here. This little triangle over here. Then I need to add in handle. Okay. And then, excuse me, this could be a little tricky. There's a few more curves and reflections. I'm just going to add little pieces at a time. See, that part's not wanting to do it, so I might have to switch over to polygonal right there. And same for right here. And then switch back to magnetic. And here I'm going to literally have to just little teeny tiny click marks all the way around the arch that I want, because there's that reflection in the background that I don't want. I've just got to pick out the parts that I do want, and then just to make this curve a little smoother right here on the underside, I'm going to do the same thing. So there we go. And down here at the end, go. And now I'm going to go over to the other faucet. Oh, first I'm going to catch these little guys. I want to get rid of the greenish stems. That's it. Again, this is one of those ones where the item color and the background color are very similar, so I'm just having to kind of do a really quick succession of keys to create those map points, essentially. Okay. And then I just want to get rid of this little triangle here. That whole thing is backwards. Rid of that. This little adding in this cross piece. And then adding in, now this is where I had to use that polygonal tool earlier to get a fairly straight line. You can use, even on curved surfaces, you can use the polygonal lasso is the weirdest word in the world to say. You just have to do, your points wherever you want. So anywhere you've got a straight line, you can stretch out a little further. Anywhere you've got a curved line, you can stretch together. As long as you do that and you're either zoomed in really close or working on an arch that following that curve really closely, you can still get a very natural looking curve. No one's endpoint. There it is. Okay. Perfect. So I think that is everything there. I didn't want to get those poppies because I'll add another little flower or something later. And as much as I kind of like the placement of those mirrors, I don't for the I want to add those in separately, I think, if I'm gonna do that. So back over here to layer mask tool. Okay. Shrink this on down. Add a little back, kind of like that. Actually do that. Behind where the tub is, because I want the tub to be kind of in the forefront. So I'm actually gonna always know what tool you're. That's just a little bit bigger. Okay. And then see the next element. I have two different rugs that I was kind of debating between. The first one's a little more contemporary, kind of a flat weave kilim style. So if I go up here, transform, rotate 90. That's one option for a rug, and it's not terrible. Actually, maybe I will keep both. So I'm gonna rotate this 90 again. Put it like that. I'm gonna drag it behind the tub. Kind of like that. Because then I had one other rug that I thought was really cool. So you could have this kilim rug over here by the tub, and then this a little more traditional looking kilim rug right here could be over by the vanities. Now if I move that one up here to the front for a second. Now I have to trace this one. I'll come back here to these tassels. This gives me a nice long edge to work with. Okay. Flip over. No, I'll keep polygonal. Now I'm going to add that, subtract that, add there, subtract. And again, minutiae, I mean, literally tracing out the tassels of a rug. But notice it's these details that just make everything look seamless. Clients or people scrolling Instagram or whatever. I'm just alternating between adding and subtracting. Get this shape down here that I and just continuing on down the line. And sometimes I've tried to go in here and basically make them all uniform, and it just looks so unrealistic because in real life they're never uniform. So it takes a little longer, but it's a much better output. Okay. About a third of the way done with that row. Okay. So just plugging away, carving out all the tassel bits. So glamorous. Liken this to a fashion photographer having to retouch all the stray hair. All right. This, staring at the screen, that's where my blue light glasses come in handy. Now when I'm working with actual color, I don't wear these because they obviously the way they work is by blocking out the blue lights. You see very yellow. Oops. Yeah. But when I'm just doing stuff like this, where I'm just looking for the borders and the edges and stuff, and I've already picked my colors, it's actually kind of helpful just to minimize the eye strain. So gotta protect my eyes because they're how I make my living. All right. Almost there with that row. Okay. Alt. Almost there. Uh, mhm. Okay, so there's that end. And then now down to the other end here real quick. Uh, Photographers should line these out better when they take a picture. Save me a lot of time here. So we're just trimming all around this rug just in case I wanted to actually overlap it with something. But I found that it's just easier to do it this way because you do the layer mask to get rid of part of the background. You can't go back and undo or redo the layer mask without redoing a whole bunch of steps. So it's just best to do this tracing right away when you bring it into the image. Now we've got the flexibility if you want to do overlapping or not. Maybe there's some Photoshop experts that can tell work around, but I only know what I've learned or been shown or figured out over the years. Was it Christmas lights? Okay, we're getting closer. Maybe this is all a little redundant, but the whole point of being I would feel bad throwing off something that didn't have all the details taken care of or out. Not my way to do it. If I can do it the right way or do it in a way that really wow and detail oriented. Knock their socks off. What? Is really these don't have to be perfect because you know what isn't there. You just are trying to create sort of a edge so that it looks at it. And here's why you just cut everything off and swoop. All right, that's little. There we go. Okay. Ooh, finally. Okay. Layer mask it. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Shrink it down. Over here. Now I want that vanity. There we go. I want the leg of that vanity be over top. Now that vanity might end up being like a built-in piece, but it just looks more natural underneath it, at least for an image like this. I want to make this piece of art just a little bit bigger. I like having that in the background, but I think I need more of it. That. Slide it on over. There we go. Maybe I'll do that one more time. Okay. And then because of all these different elements that I've got here, you really don't see any of those seam lines, so that's not really a big deal. Okay. That a little behind. Okay, so there's my artwork. There's my beautiful tile, my wood flooring. Again, I think I'm gonna do the same thing with the wood floor. I'm gonna do it. Just move it over next to it. There we go. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just gives a little hint. Don't like that that's not. There we go. Rug down. Oh, nope, I don't want the whole group. Okay. I only want the rug to. Okay. So now I'm down to just the final little bits of detail. Okay, here's a vanity light. Back to the front. I don't need all of that. I just need this one smaller bit. So magnetic. Actually, I'm gonna try. No, because I don't want those pieces. Okay. Do. Yeah, so I'm gonna do the magnetic. Zoom on in here. When I'm doing the magnetic tool, I always try to keep my cursor just slightly away from the line that I want. Generally, I'll go towards the white side. Um, so that it can really see that edge, because otherwise sometimes it'll kind of tuck in and it shouldn't. Now I'm going to ignore those bulbs because you really can't see them. Right across there, not worry about those bulbs sticking out the bottom and you'll know. So thankfully with black and white, it's a little bit easier to get a crisp line, although there's still a few little details I'll have to touch up here where we've got some highlight. Okay, so got our main outline. That's not too little knob blue or something. Do that there. Want smooth edge, and I do want to smear. Match these edges. And anywhere like that where there's very little contrast, I'll use my mouse button to just click and create little points where I want it to go, because otherwise the magnetic catch doesn't really know where to go. Not always the best at guessing. So up here we've got just a little bit of white to get rid of, but black to bit to get rid of, bit to add right here. All right, so I think that should do it. Yep, okay. Do my layer mask. Okay. And we're going to shrink that on down. That above the vanity like that. Okay, now I have one other light fixture because I like to have a pendant over by the bathtub. This one I'm going to do polygonal because pretty straight lines. See how easy that is? Now I do need to go in just real quick. There's a couple of these little cutouts where you can see through. I want to get rid of. But again, these are all very linear. Up here. Okay. There we go. So, the usual layer mask, form, ink. Okay. Now I did also have a couple different plants because you got to have plants in the bathroom. One of them I've actually found this really cool hanger. Love ceiling hang. Okay. Let's do my Okay. But we'll try it. Using the magnetic. Ooh, that went out a little bit off the rails there. Okay. Okay. Subtract that. Add in or catch it all. Where did I start? Top. There we go. Okay. This one. That's where there's a little hiccup there, but I'm going to be putting a plant in here, so I'm not too worried. So layer mask, shrink way down. I might end up actually, even though it's not necessarily accurate, there's that vanity light. Just so that way this doesn't quite so misplaced. And then over here, in this planter, I need a plant. I'm gonna do, I had a couple different ones. This one. Ooh, that's big. Excuse me. All right. So I don't need the whole thing. I just need like the top portion. I'm going to use my magnetic lasso. I'm going to come here. I'm essentially just taking the top half of this plant. That's all I need. And that's one of the things that I really like about this magnetic lasso tool is you don't want a little something or other in your image. Delete it. Just get it out of there. Okay. Okay. Just layer mask it. Rinky dink. And especially here, since this is such a small little thing, you know, the details are not that big of a deal. I think I'm actually going to make this, hold on, a little bit bigger. Okay, and then grab that little part. Oops. Grab it a little bigger. There. That looks really nice in there. Zoom back out. Got this kind of fun, cool little hanging planter. Okay, we'll move these. Yeah, there we go. And last, but I think last. Okay, last but not least, one more plant because plants. Yeah. All right. I'm going to try the magic wand on this one and see what this does. Because sometimes it's good to try new things. All right, we'll see what that does. Oh, see, it missed a whole bunch in the middle, so undo. Aha, there we go. That's the solution. Oh, nope, too many. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. There we go. All right, so now we're going to shrink this on down. And it either needs to go here or here. And I'm thinking because I've already got the one plant in that upper right corner, I think I want this over here. Plus, that actually makes sense because more, if you're going to have a potted plant in the bathroom, and you've got this beautiful copper soaking tub, you'd probably want one of your plants pretty close to that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do now that I've got everything really laid out where I like it, I'm actually going to make this piece of artwork just a tiny bit bigger. The artwork really is the focus. Okay. I don't want it touching that. Okay. Scoot that over. I'm going to make sure that my vanity, everything's lined up really nice. Okay, there we go. So now that I've got everything, I'm going to do a single grab where I grab everything. Control T, get down just a tiny bit. Down. Oh, and I want to make sure I get it up just a little ways. You always want to make sure that graphically you never have, when things are perfectly centered, they actually look like they're falling. So you always want things to be just a smidgen higher than whatever that center line would be. That looks about right. And then the very last thing I've got going on here is, or not very last. I keep saying very last, but I really don't mean it. All right, hold on.
Silence you. No!
Okay. So I always do these frames when I'm doing Instagram because I like to frame it out really nice. But the one thing I want to make sure is that the image doesn't extend outside. So I see that I'm a little bit too large there, so I'm gonna temporarily move that down. Grab everything again. Alt T. Just a little further. Okay. And then I think I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move this plant in just a little ways. Oh, too far. I've still got them. Okay. I wanna make sure that only one thing is selected. There we go. Put that in within the parameters of the viewing or the drawing. And I'm also gonna move this rug in just ways. Grab my frame, bring that back up to where it is nice and centered, beautiful. And then the last couple little details, again, because we're sharing this on social media, or because I will be sharing this on social media, is to always drop in logo, because just never know. Honestly, even having the logo in there doesn't necessarily stop someone from stealing it, but hopefully it makes them think twice, or hopefully someone else sees it and calls them out on it. And then the other thing that I've started to do, and this is, again, because someone could kind of crop that. I mean, it would look out of place, but they could, is to use the text tool. And just go in and use like that. So I want to find a spot where it's going to be fairly unobtrusive. I'm actually going to rotate this 90 degrees. Oh, okay. And I'm going to make it a little smaller. I really don't want this to be the focus. I just want it to be there in case. Grab my Okay. I'm just moving this little light fixture over a little ways. And I'm going to move that. And then again, I still don't want that to be huge, so I'm going to drop the opacity just a really faint, but it's there. So that when you're looking at this image, you don't see that first. Your eye is not drawn to that. Your eye is drawn to the image and all of the awesomeness that's there. I still feel like there's a little bit too much dead space kind of near the top and bottom of this image, so I'm going to this down just a little bit. Drag down a little. Lift this up. There we go. Okay, left to right, top to bottom. Oh, now that means that put the rug a little bit into my logo. So move that back up, and then I'm also going to shrink my. There. All right. So that is a mood board inspired by a piece of art. So like I said, this is a piece of art that I found on minted.com, which is one of my favorite sites for going to find not necessarily custom art, but artist created art that they then put up for sale, and Minted sells that for them either in the form of framed prints, or I think they have the options for greeting cards and other things as well. So if you are in the market for art, one of my resources that I love to go to, you can get it in all different sizes, and it really does support the independent artists. So when I share this on social media, I will of course be sharing not only that I found it on Minted, but I'll be sharing the name of the piece plus the artist, and tagging them as well so they get credit for this. So thank you so much for tuning in to my video here, watching me create this concept board, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. All right, bye. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that.